The research ship Harmony's Edge spun slowly through the cold darkness of space like a broken toy thrown away by an angry child. Captain Nira pressed her scaled hands against the emergency control panel and watched the red numbers on the screen drop lower and lower with each passing minute. The oxygen was running out, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Her crew of 12 beings from 6 different worlds had been coming home from a simple job checking rocks in an empty star system when the pirates found them. The attack came without warning from behind a floating chunk of metal that used to be someone else's ship. The pirates had big guns and fast ships, while Harmony's Edge only had science equipment and hope. The pirates tore through their shields like cutting paper with a knife. They smashed the engines until they stopped working and broke holes in the way. Hole that let all the air escape into space. Then they took everything worth taking from the cargo bay and the crew quarters before disappearing back into the asteroid field. Like ghosts made of metal and greed, now the survivors sat crowded together in the tiny emergency room deep inside the ship. It was the only place left with air to breathe, and walls thick enough to keep the cold of space from freezing them solid. Their breath made small clouds in the air that got thicker as the temperature dropped hour by hour. Dr. Kale worked at a broken control box with all 4 of his arms, moving at once like a strange dance. He was the best engineer on the ship, but even his clever hands could not fix what the pirates had destroyed.
Ow.
The main power was gone, and the backup power was dying. The life support machines that made air and heat were broken beyond repair. Navigator Pix sat at the communications station, sending distress calls on every frequency she knew. Her young face showed the fear she tried to hide as she sent the same message over and over into the empty space around them.
I'll say sometimes.
The words were always the same. Too far away, they said. Too dangerous, they said. Some ships did not answer at all. In this part of space there were no laws and no one to enforce them, even if there were. Pirates and criminals made their homes in the asteroid fields, and honest traders stayed away. Piece of space junk waiting to be picked clean by scavengers. Captain Nira looked around at her crew and felt her heart break. A little more. There was Tom, the communications officer, who always made jokes to keep spirits up, but had not smiled for hours. There was Dr. Voss, the medical officer, who kept checking on everyone, even though there was nothing she could do for any of them. Was Rico, the young cargo handler who had joined the crew just 3 months ago, and sent money home to his family every payday. The emergency heater made a clicking sound and then went quiet forever. The temperature in the small room began to drop faster now. Crystals started forming on the metal walls like deadly flowers blooming in the cold. Everyone moved closer together, trying to share what little warmth their bodies could make. Nira gathered her crew in a circle around the broken heater. She knew that as captain it was her job to keep hope alive, but she also knew there was no hope left to keep. The distress beacon would run out of power soon, and then even their location would be lost to the universe. They would drift through space forever like a tomb. Made of metal and dreams, the crew began to talk about their homes and families. Tom spoke of his 3 children who were waiting for him to come back with presents from the mineral worlds. Dr. Voss talked about her research into curing a disease that killed thousands on her planet every year. Rico cried as he held a picture of his bonded mate and spoke of the house they were saving money to buy. Each story made the cold seem a little warmer for a moment. But then reality would come back like a slap in the face. They were going to die out here in the darkness between stars with no one to remember them or mourn their passing. The universe was vast and uncaring, and they were just tiny specks of life about to be snuffed out like candles in a storm. Pix kept sending distress calls, even though her hands were shaking from cold and fear. The static from the communications array was the only sound in the room besides their breathing and the occasional groan of metal stressed beyond its limits. The hull was slowly coming apart as the temperature difference between inside and outside grew too great for the damaged structure to handle. Dr. Kale finally gave up trying to fix the life support and sat down with the others. His 4 arms hung at his sides like broken tools, and his normally bright eyes had gone dull with defeat. He had spent his whole life learning how to make machines work, but machines needed parts and power and hope to function. They had none of these things left. The emergency lights flickered and went out. leaving them in darkness broken only by the faint glow of the communications panel. In the growing blackness, they could hear ice forming on the walls with small, crackling sounds like bones breaking. The cold was getting stronger, and their breath was getting harder to see as the air grew thin. Captain, Nira thought about sending one last message to her homeworld, but decided against it. What would she say that had not already been said? She was sorry for not coming home, that she loved them all. She wished things could have been different. Words seemed small and useless in the face of the infinite darkness that surrounded them. The youngest crew member began to cry softly, and others joined him until the small room filled with the sound of beings facing their end together. They held each other close and tried to find comfort in shared warmth and shared sorrow. Outside the thin walls, space waited with the patience of eternity to claim them all. Then in the growing silence between heartbeats, they heard something that should not have been possible. The deep rumble of massive engines approaching through the black void of space. The sound grew stronger and stronger until the dying ship shook with the vibration of something huge and powerful moving toward them. Through the darkness, like thunder made of metal and hope, the human warship Defiant Spirit appeared from hyperspace like a mountain made of metal and fire. Its massive hull blocked out the stars as it moved toward the dying alien vessel with engines that roared like thunder across the empty void. Captain? Roy Stone stood on the bridge of his ship watching the tactical displays show him everything he needed to know about the broken research vessel drifting helplessly in space. Stone was a man who had seen too much war and too much death, but his eyes still held kindness beneath the scars that marked his weathered face. He had been hunting pirates in this sector for weeks when his long-range sensors picked up the distress signal from Harmony's edge. The message was weak and fading, but it told a story it heard too many times before. The bridge crew moved around him like dancers who knew their steps by heart. Chief Engineer Lisa Park shook her head as she read the damage reports from their scanners. The alien ship was torn apart and dying, and she wondered how anyone could still be alive inside that frozen wreck. The hull was breached in 12 places, and the life support systems were running on fumes and prayers. Stone activated the ship-wide communication system, and his voice echoed through every corridor and room of the massive warship. All hands prepare for emergency rescue operations, he said. Medical teams to the docking bay. Engineering teams grab everything we need to keep people alive. We have maybe 1 hour before that ship becomes a tomb floating in space. The aliens aboard Harmony's Edge could not believe what their failing sensors were telling them. The human ship was enormous beyond anything they had ever seen. It was longer than their entire home city and bristled with weapons that could crack planets. They had heard stories about humans across the galaxy, but the stories always made them sound like demons who showed no mercy to anyone. Yet here was this human warship extending docking tubes toward their dying vessel and pumping emergency atmosphere into their failing life support systems. The radio crackled with voices speaking in the human language, asking about their condition and promising help was coming. The universal translators worked overtime to make sense of words spoken with urgency and concern. Dr. Emma Cross was the first human through the airlock when the docking tube finally connected. She carried medical equipment and emergency supplies while her team followed behind with portable heaters and oxygen tanks. The sight that met them when they entered the alien ship made her heart break a little. 12 beings from different worlds, huddled together in a tiny room that was so cold their breath made clouds in the air. Ice covered the walls, and the emergency lights flickered like dying stars. Some of the aliens were unconscious from lack of oxygen, while others shivered uncontrollably from the brutal cold that had invaded their ship. Dr. Cross began working immediately. Without stopping to think about the differences between human and alien biology, her scanners told her what she needed to know about heart rates and breathing patterns and blood chemistry. Her hands moved quickly and surely as she wrapped the worst cases in thermal blankets and connected them to portable life support equipment. The human rescue teams spread through the dying ship like water flowing through cracks. They worked with the desperate efficiency of people who knew that every second mattered. Some carried the weakest aliens back to the safety of the human ship, while others tried to salvage what they could from the wreckage. Captain, Stone himself came through the docking tube to help with the rescue. His large frame barely fit through the alien corridors, but he squeezed through anyway to reach crew members trapped in the far sections of the ship. He found Rico, the young cargo handler, unconscious in a storage room and carried him back to safety. Like a father carrying his sleeping child, the aliens who were still conscious watched in amazement. As these human warriors transformed into gentle rescuers, the same hands that could operate weapons of mass destruction now handled injured aliens with the care of parents tending sick children. They spoke in soft voices and moved with careful precision to avoid causing any more pain. Captain Nira found herself being carried toward the human ship by two medical technicians, who kept checking her vital signs and asking if she was comfortable. Her translator was having trouble keeping up with all the human words for different medical procedures and comfort items. She had never heard a language with so many ways to ask if someone was all right, as the last survivor was brought aboard. The human vessel, the final disaster struck. Harmony's edge. The damaged hull could not take any more stress and began to break apart with sounds like screaming metal. The docking tube was pulled away just in time as the research ship tore itself apart in a shower of ice and debris. The aliens watched through the viewports of the human ship as their home for the past. Floating in space? Everything they owned except the clothes on their backs was gone forever. Their research data from months of work was lost, along with personal items and memories that could never be replaced. But they were alive, and that seemed impossible just minutes before. The human medical bay was warm and bright and filled with the sounds of efficient activity. Human doctors worked alongside their alien patients, using scanners and computers to figure out how to treat species they had never seen before. Dr. Cross moved from bed to bed, checking on her new patients with the help of Dr. Voss, who had recovered enough to translate medical terms and explain alien biology. The cultural exchange began immediately as both humans and aliens learned from each other out of necessity and growing curiosity. The human ship's cook appeared in the medical bay, carrying containers of hot soup and warm drinks. He had worked for hours to prepare food that would not poison the alien digestive systems. His gruff exterior hid a kind heart as he made sure every survivor had something warm to eat and drink. Young Pix stared at the human communications equipment with wonder. The technology was different from what her people used, but it was clearly more powerful and sophisticated. The human communications officer showed her star charts and navigation systems that covered vast areas of space she had never seen mapped. Before Captain Stone found Captain Nira, when she was strong enough to sit up and talk, he pulled up a chair beside her bed and spoke through the universal translator about what had happened to her ship. His scarred hands and kind eyes told the story of someone who had seen both the worst and best that the galaxy had to offer. As the hours passed, the rescued aliens began to understand that their saviors were not the savage monsters of galactic legend. They were people with families and hopes and fears just like everyone else. They could fight like demons when they had to, but they chose to show mercy when they could. The medical bay of the Defiant Spirit hummed with quiet activity as human doctors worked beside their alien patients throughout the night cycle. Dr. Emma Cross had never treated beings from other worlds before, but she learned quickly by watching and listening to Dr. Voss, who explained the differences between species. The Kethron needed more oxygen than humans, while the Zilani could not handle certain medications that humans used every day. Captain Nira sat in the ship's main conference room 3 days after the rescue, wrapped in a soft human blanket that smelled like flowers from some distant world. Captain Stone sat across from her at a table covered with plates of food from the ship's kitchen. The human leader had kind eyes that seemed much older than his face, and hands marked with scars that told stories of battles fought and won through the universal translator. They talked about the attack on Harmony's Edge and the pirates who had destroyed so many lives. The Red Claw Syndicate had been hitting ships in this sector for months, always choosing targets that could not fight back. They took everything of value and left the crews to die in the cold darkness between stars. Stone's jaw tightened as he listened to the details of the attack. His ship had been hunting these same pirates for weeks, following a trail of wreckage and distress beacons that led deeper into the lawless regions of space. Every destroyed ship meant families who would never see their loved ones again and cargo that would never reach the people who needed it. Meanwhile, throughout the massive human warship, aliens and humans worked together to make room for their unexpected guests. Chief Engineer Lisa Park found herself spending hours with Dr. Kale in the engineering sections comparing notes about power systems and shield generators. The alien engineer had 4 arms that moved with perfect coordination, while the human engineer had 2 arms and a mind that thought in ways that amazed her new friend. Dr. Kale marveled at the simple strength of human technology. Where his people built complex systems with hundreds of moving parts, the humans built machines that could take damage and keep working. Their engines were loud and rough, but they never stopped running. Computers were basic, but they processed information faster than anything he had seen. Park showed him through the massive engine room, where reactors the size of buildings created power for the entire ship. The human technology was built for war, but it was also built to last and to be repaired by people who might not have perfect conditions or unlimited time. Everything was designed to be fixed with simple tools and common sense. Young navigator. Pick spent her time in the ship's communication center, learning about human navigation methods from the officers who ran the sophisticated equipment. The humans had mapped star systems across vast distances, and their computers could calculate hyperspace jumps that would take her people days to plan. But they also kept paper charts as backup in case their computers failed. The human communications officer was a woman named Ruth who had served on warships for 15 years. She showed Pix how human ships stayed in contact across the galaxy using relay stations and quantum transmitters that could send messages faster than light itself. The technology was advanced, but the principles were simple enough that any trained operator could use them. In the ship's kitchen, the cook named Bill Hayes worked overtime to prepare meals that would not make his alien guests sick. He consulted with Dr. Voss about what each species could eat and what might poison them. The Kethron could not digest certain proteins, while the Zelani needed minerals that humans considered toxic. But he was determined to make sure everyone had good food to eat. Hayes had been cooking for military crews for 20 years, and he knew that good food was important for morale. He experimented with different combinations of ingredients, trying to find flavors that would appeal to beings from different worlds. Soon, the mess hall filled with the sounds of conversation and sometimes even laughter as humans and aliens shared meals together. Tom, the communications officer from the UHL, the destroyed ship, found himself fascinated by human music and entertainment. The humans had thousands of songs and stories from their home world and colonies scattered across the galaxy. Some of the music was soft and peaceful, while other songs were loud and energetic. The humans seemed to have music for every emotion and situation. The ship's recreation areas became gathering places where humans and aliens learned about each other's cultures. The humans shared stories of their wars and explorations, while the aliens talked about their peaceful research missions and scientific discoveries. Both groups found that they had more in common than they had expected. Dr. Voss worked closely with the human medical team to treat the survivors who had been injured during the pirate attack. The humans had advanced medical equipment, but they lacked experience with alien biology. The collaboration between human and alien doctors led to breakthroughs that helped both species understand each other better. Rico, the young cargo handler, spent his time learning about human civilian life. From the crew members who had families back home, humans showed him pictures of their children and talked about their hopes for the future. He realized that human warriors were also human parents and partners who fought to protect the people they loved. Captain Stone made it clear that the rescued aliens were welcome to stay aboard his ship for as long as they needed. The Defiant Spirit was large enough to accommodate them, and the crew seemed to enjoy having new friends from different worlds. Some of the aliens talked about trying to find passage back to their home worlds, while others wondered if they might be able to join the human crew permanently. The cultural exchange flowed both ways as humans learned about alien technology and philosophy. The aliens had developed ways of thinking about complex problems that amazed their human hosts. Their scientific methods were more careful and precise than human approaches, while human methods were faster and more flexible. As the Days passed, the two groups began to understand that the stories they had heard about each other were only partly true. The humans were indeed fierce warriors who could fight with terrible effectiveness, but they were also people who chose to help strangers in need. The aliens were peaceful researchers, but they were also brave beings who had faced death together. Without giving up hope, the ship's library became a meeting place, where humans and aliens shared knowledge about everything from cooking to engineering to art. The humans had books and videos about their history, while the aliens had about scientific discoveries that could benefit both species. The exchange of information created friendships that would last long after the rescue mission ended. In the quiet hours between shifts, Captain Nira found herself walking through the corridors of the human ship, thinking about everything that had happened. Her crew had been saved by beings they had never met who had risked their own lives to help strangers. The kindness of these human warriors had changed her understanding of what it meant to be strong. The alarm bells throughout the Defiant Spirit woke everyone from their sleep with urgent sounds that meant only one thing. The long-range sensors had found something important, and Captain Stone wanted all senior officers on the bridge immediately. The rescued aliens felt their hearts race as they heard the sounds of a warship preparing for possible battle. Captain Stone stood in the tactical center, surrounded by holographic displays that showed star positions and ship movements in 3 dimensions. The screens painted a picture that made his blood run cold with anger. The Red Claw Syndicate had found another victim, and they were in the middle of tearing it apart like hungry animals feeding on a fresh kill. Long-range sensors showed 2 heavy cruisers and 4 destroyers surrounding a merchant vessel near a dead moon that had been blasted apart by some ancient war. The pirates were using their standard tactics of trapping their prey against the gravity well, so the victim could not escape into hyperspace. The merchant ship was already badly damaged and sending out desperate distress calls. Captain Nira had been sleeping in guest quarters when the alarm sounded, but she arrived on the bridge, then minutes, still wearing the human clothes that had been given to her. Stone looked at her with respect as she studied the tactical displays with the experienced eye of someone who had commanded ships in dangerous situations. "The pirate fleet is using the moon's broken pieces to hide their approach," Nira said through her translator as she pointed at the holographic display. "Standard pirate doctrine is to prevent escape first, and then take everything of value from the cargo holds and crew quarters. They will strip that ship bare and leave the crew to die, just like they did to us." Stone nodded grimly as he watched the enemy positions update on his screens. The pirates had made their camp in the shadow of the dead moon where normal sensors could not detect them easily. They probably had supplies and stolen goods hidden in the asteroid field left over from the moon's destruction. This was their territory, and they knew every hiding place and escape route. Chief Engineer Lisa Park worked at her station to prepare the ship's stealth systems for a surprise attack. The Defiant Spirit was much larger than the pirate vessels, but it was also equipped with technology that could hide it from enemy sensors. They could slip through the asteroid field like a ghost made of metal and fury. Dr. Kale had been working with the human engineering teams for days, and now he offered his knowledge to help plan the attack. His forearms moved quickly over the control panels as he showed the humans how to adjust their shield frequencies to better protect against pirate weapons. The alien engineer had studied pirate technology during his years of research, and he knew their weaknesses. Young navigator Pick sat at a human computer terminal downloading everything she knew about pirate communication codes and tactical patterns. Her people had been studying pirate activities for years as part of their research into deep space hazards. She knew how they organized their fleets and how they coordinated their attacks on helpless victims. The other rescued aliens found ways to contribute their knowledge to the rescue mission that was forming around them. Dr. Voss shared medical information about the species that were probably aboard the merchant vessel so the human medical teams could prepare proper treatment. Tom provided details about merchant ship designs and where the crew would be hiding. During an attack, Captain Stone gathered his senior officers and the alien survivors in the main briefing room to plan their attack. The walls showed detailed images of the pirate fleet and the merchant vessel they were destroying. Every few minutes, the displays updated to show the increasing damage being done to the helpless ship. The merchant vessel carried a crew of 40. 7 beings, including families with children, who were traveling to a new colony world, Stone said as he pointed to the intelligence reports on the screen. The pirates have already disabled their engines and are cutting through their hull to reach the cargo bays. We estimate 30 minutes before they break through to the crew compartments. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The Defiant Spirit would approach from the far side of the dead moon, using the asteroid field for cover. They would wait until the pirates were busy looting the merchant ship and then attack with everything they had. The goal was to destroy or disable the pirate vessels before they could harm the merchant crew. Lisa Park explained the technical details of how they would modify their weapons and shields using the knowledge provided by their alien friends. The combination of human military technology and alien scientific understanding would give them advantages the pirates had never faced before. But the enemy still outnumbered them and knew the local space better. Rico, the young cargo handler, asked if he could help with the rescue operations, since he knew how merchant ships were organized and where crew members would hide during attacks. His knowledge of cargo handling equipment might be useful for getting people out of damaged compartments quickly and safely. Stone looked around the room at the mixture of human warriors and alien scientists, who had become an unlikely team united by their shared anger at pirate cruelty. The aliens had lost everything to these same criminals, and now they wanted to help save others from the same fate. Their peaceful nature had been awakened to righteous fury. The tactical displays showed that time was running out for the merchant vessel. Structural damage was increasing, and life support systems were failing as the pirates continued their destructive work. The distress signals were getting weaker, which meant the crew was probably running out of power for their emergency systems. Stone activated the ship-wide communication system, and his voice echoed through every corridor and compartment of the massive warship. "All hands prepare for combat operations," he announced. "This is not a drill. We are going to save those people and make the pirates pay for every life they have taken in this sector of space." The human crew moved with the deadly efficiency of professional warriors preparing for battle. They had trained for situations like this, but now they were not fighting alone. Their alien friends worked beside them, checking systems and sharing knowledge that could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Dr. Kale helped the engineering teams optimize the ship's power distribution, while Pix worked with navigation to plan the best approach through the asteroid field. Dr. Voss prepared medical supplies for treating victims with injuries they might not have seen before. Every rescued alien found a way to contribute to the mission as the Defiant Spirit moved toward the dead moon with its weapons powered and shields at maximum strength. The rescued aliens finally understood why humans had earned their fearsome reputation across the galaxy. They watched peaceful rescuers transform into focused warriors who would not allow innocent people to suffer while they had the power to help. The merchant vessel's distress beacon painted a desperate picture on their screens. Families with young children watched helplessly as pirates cut through their ship's hull like predators preparing to devour their prey. But help was coming through the darkness of space, and it carried the combined fury of human warriors and alien scientists working together for justice. The Defiant Spirit erupted from behind the dead moon like an angel of vengeance made of steel and fire. Its massive hull blazed with weapon ports and shield generators as it roared toward the pirate fleets with engines that shook space itself. Captain Stone stood on the bridge watching his enemies scatter like insects when a light gets turned on in a dark room. The first salvo from the human warship caught 2 pirate destroyers completely unprepared. The combination of human weapons guided by alien tactical knowledge turned the enemy ships into expanding clouds of gas and metal before they could even raise their shields. The other pirates began screaming orders and warnings across their communication channels, but it was already too late. Stone's voice boomed across all radio frequencies with words that carried the weight of human determination and fury. "This is Captain Roy Stone of the Terran Defense Force," he announced to the pirates and their victims alike. "You have 30 seconds to release your prisoners and surrender, or we will send you to whatever hell your species believes in." The pirate response was exactly what everyone expected. Missiles and plasma bolts erupted from the remaining enemy ships, like angry hornets defending their nest. but the weapons that had destroyed so many helpless merchant vessels splashed harmlessly against the shields of the human. The Red Claw Syndicate had terrorized this sector for months, but they had never faced human military might backed by righteous anger. Captain Nira stood beside Stone on the bridge, watching the battle unfold with amazement and satisfaction. Pirates who had destroyed her ship and killed her friends were finally facing an enemy that could fight back. The human weapons, enhanced by alien scientific knowledge, tore through pirate defenses like they were made of paper and wishes. The pirate heavy cruisers tried to use their superior numbers and knowledge of the local asteroid field to gain an advantage. They scattered in different directions, hoping to divide the human ship's attention and escape into hyperspace. When the gravity well of the dead moon no longer trapped them, but they had not counted on the navigation skills of young Pix, who had studied their tactics for years. Pix worked at a human computer terminal, calculating escape vectors in hyperspace, entry points with the speed and precision of someone who had spent her life reading the movements of stars and ships. She had already predicted where each pirate vessel would try to run, and the human gunners were ready with weapons trained on those exact locations. The converted cargo hauler that served as the pirate base tried to flee deeper into the asteroid field, where its smaller size might help it hide among the floating rocks. But Dr. Kale had worked with the human engineers to enhance their sensors, and the fleeing ship showed up on their screens like a torch in the darkness. A precisely placed shot from the main gun of the Defiant Spirit disabled the cargo haulers engines without destroying the vessel completely. Stone wanted prisoners who could tell them about other pirate bases and stolen goods that might be returned to their rightful owners. The human captain believed in justice, not just revenge. Within 1 hour, the pirate fleet was either destroyed or surrendering. The merchant vessel was saved from certain destruction, and its crew of 47 beings was rescued from what would have been a slow death in the cold vacuum of space. Human Marines boarded the surviving pirate ships to secure prisoners and search for evidence of other crimes. The rescued merchant crew included families with young children who had watched in terror as pirates cut through their ship's hull. Now they watched in amazement as human soldiers treated their captors with professional restraint while providing medical care to anyone who needed it. Even the pirates received treatment for their injuries. Dr. Emma Cross led medical teams that treated both rescued merchants and captured pirates with equal skill and compassion. The human doctors had learned much about alien biology from their cooperation with Dr. Boss and the other survivors from Harmony's Edge. They worked quickly to save lives without asking whether their patients were victims or criminals. The efficiency and restraint shown by the human warriors impressed everyone who witnessed the battle and its aftermath. They had fought with devastating effectiveness when fighting was necessary, but they showed mercy and professionalism when the battle was over. The combination of strength and compassion seemed to be a uniquely human trait. Captain Nira approached Stone on the bridge after the fighting was finished and the area was secure. Her reptilian features showed an expression that her species reserved for the deepest respect and gratitude. "Your people fight like demons when they must," she said through her translator, "but they show mercy when they can. In all my travels across the galaxy, I have never seen such a combination of power and kindness." Stone looked out at the stars where other human ships were already responding to different distress calls and cries for help in the darkness. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, Captain," he replied, "but it does not have to be a hopeless place. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to answer when help is needed and someone strong enough to make a difference." The Defiant Spirit resumed its patrol through the dangerous sectors of space, with its crew now enriched by the friendships that had been forged in crisis and battle. The rescued aliens chose to remain aboard the human ship, with some joining as permanent crew members, while others served as ambassadors to their homeworlds. Word of the rescue and the battle spread through galactic communication networks carried by grateful survivors and former victims who had been saved from pirate attacks. The story was told and retold across dozens of worlds as beings shared the news that someone was finally fighting back against the criminals who preyed on the innocent. The message became clear to anyone who would listen across the known regions of space. When disaster strikes and hope seems lost, and when the darkness between stars threatens to claim the innocent, humanity will come knocking. They might arrive with thunder and fury and weapons that can crack worlds, but they will arrive, and the helpless will find champions among the stars. Dr. Kale continued working with human engineers to improve their technology, while sharing alien scientific discoveries that could benefit both species. Pix became the ship's expert on pirate tactics and helped plan operations against other criminal organizations. Dr. Voss established medical exchange programs between human and alien doctors. Rico found a new family among the human crew members who treated him like a younger brother and taught him skills that would serve him well in his new life. Tom discovered that human music and entertainment helped him deal with the trauma of losing his ship and his friends. Every survivor found a place where they belonged. The legend of human compassion began that day, not with conquest or glory or the expansion of territory, but with 12 strangers saved from the void and a promise kept to all who would listen. No one fights alone when humanity stands watch over the darkness between worlds, and no cry for help goes unanswered when human hearts can hear it.